Hello, this is Christina Barton. You're watching Black Tea News. Hello. Welcome to Black Tea News. I'm your host, Christina Barr, and today we'll be talking about some crazy stuff going down at the border, as is just kind of, I guess, the state of things until there's some kind of change. Though border crossings are down a bit, so there's rumors that I think the New York Post is reporting that Biden has made some kind of deal with the president of Mexico to keep the border crossings down, because it's an election year, which is interesting. And I don't know, they could just fix the problem. I'm sure people would appreciate that more. We'll be talking about that. Also, I found out, on the God Made Trump video, we talked about it earlier this week, but the person who made it, I had mentioned his name, but I hadn't realized who he was. So I saw some other tweets of his. So I wanted to bring some things to your attention because I saw some tweets and I've been stewing on it for a minute. And I just have to, I guess, share what I find to be probably their perspective, at least by some of the things that they've said. And the poor reflection, I suppose, it gives with evangelicals and what to do kind of going forward. And also breaking news, Daily Wire reported that not just Daily Wire, but Alec Baldwin has been indicted on the charge of involuntary manslaughter in the Rush shooting. So that was big news when it happened, and he had that interview, and which I thought was puzzling and etc. But I didn't know what was going to end up happening with that. But apparently he is being indicted. So we'll go through that story as well. Before we jump into it, I want to encourage you guys to go to blacktnews.com, check out different content of the website, different articles, different videos, etc. If you like what I do here, please consider leaving a donation at blacktnews.com/donate, because it does cost to stream and run my website, all that stuff, so you guys can support in that way. I do very much appreciate it. And shout out to people. I appreciate people buying my things and going and checking out the store, looking at different merch, or people who are interested and check out some of my books, which I guess I got a couple down here. I write, I do my own covers too. So I write a lot of fiction. I have nonfiction and stuff. Like this is a demon hunter story. This is like werewolves and stuff. So I got historical fiction, fantasy, etc. So on. The book I talk about the most is my abortion book, but I only have 2 nonfiction books and the rest are fiction. And I appreciate you guys doing that. But I appreciate when I post some things about my youngest sister and you guys go ahead and support her. So I had posted some photos of some stuff that she did on my YouTube page, and someone bought one of her things the other day. So I appreciate it. And it was a little picture of she was I let her borrow my one of my TikTok accounts because she doesn't have enough to go live, and so she was live painting, and so she started doing one photo. I'm like, oh, you should do Aang from Avatar: The Last Airbender, and then she ended up painting it, and so I posted the batch that she had made, and so someone ended up buying one of her paintings and stuff. So I'm a proud big sister. You're gonna just have to forgive me when I decide that I'm gonna take a moment out to direct toward her. So this was the post that I made, and then I know somebody went ahead. Someone one of my followers, Shelly, had went ahead and picked it up. So shout out to Shelly. Shout out to all you guys who support me, but also support my sister and her dream as well. She's very, very good at what she does. She does paint normal size paintings too, but the little ones people really, really love. She'll go to different conventions and so on. And she also can do custom stuff, custom big ones, but also custom little ones too. And so I appreciate you guys so much for going out your way to do that. Already got a super chat in. Thank you. I don't see anything. Just cheers. Thank you very much. Born 1999, which was kind of long ago now. It's so crazy. I don't know. I'm assuming maybe that's your. I don't know if that's your birth year or not, but man, I was born in 89. So we're all getting old together, I guess. But I appreciate that. Thank you guys. If you do want to give on Facebook, you guys can send stars. If you're on YouTube, you guys can do super chats. So thank you very much. I don't have a meme for you guys today, but I did want to show you guys something. I'm don't pay too much attention to sports, football, and stuff. It's not my favorite thing in the world. I did mention the Lions are doing well. That's pretty miraculous. Um, and the U of M, my dad went to U of M, so that was a pretty big deal. They won the championship. But there's a player who gave honor to God, and like they cut it out. And it was so short. I don't know how you could say they did it for time. And it was very odd. So I'm just going to show that so you guys know what's going on. But it was totally unnecessary for them to do that. So here is, I think this is the original video that they posted of the interview.
CJ, your first playoff game in your first NFL season and a record-setting performance for you. What does this moment mean?
I mean, it's been amazing being in this city for as short as I've been, but the love that I've got, I've really just been doing it for Houston, man. People back home, I'm blessed enough to be in the position I am and blessed enough to be playing at a high level right now, and we got to just keep it going, but I'm super blessed.
So he's already saying he's blessed, etc., blah, blah, blah. But when he got like zoomed into his face, that's where the cut was. So people point out, here's the original.
First and foremost, I just want to give all glory and praise to my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. I mean, it's been amazing being.
What does this moment mean?
I mean, it's been amazing being in this city for as short as I've been, but first and foremost,
Cut out the kudos to Jesus. Cut out the kudos to Jesus. That was his moment. He felt where he could glorify God there. And they're like, nope. Snip, snip, snap, snip, snap. Someone said sports are fake. By the way, Sports Illustrated is laying off a ton of people. That's a kind of a hot news story today, and I'm going to really dive into it. But there's lots of folks on our side of the aisle saying, go woke, go broke. And they did start putting like trans people on the front of their covers, which I imagine probably didn't bode well for sales. I don't know how many dudes are like, oh yeah, let me get that tranny issue. I imagine that doesn't whet the appetite, but it looked like there was some different stuff going on with unionized stuff and so on. So I got to dig a little more into it, but definitely folks on our side are taking a victory lap and pointing the finger and so on. But just wanted to make you guys aware of it as I came to the top of my head. But anyway, first thing I would like to talk about, let's get this rush shooting indictment of Alec Baldwin out the way. Now, Alec Baldwin had the most sort of bizarre response to all this, especially like when he had his interview and John Schneider was like going in on him, and was taught because he, I guess, he's I, I don't know if a gun enthusiast is. Maybe he is, but he knew he just would take out a gun. He'd talk about the gun safety, all the things that they're supposed to go through to make sure things are safe on set, and would explain how Alec, who was like the producer and stuff, was culpable in the shooting. That there's these conspiracies as if like someone wanted her dead and stuff. I don't buy into like all the super conspiracies like it was premeditated or something. But is he like responsible for involuntary manslaughter? It's probably a fair indictment. We'll see what ends up happening, if he'll have to do any time or anything for it. But him going and doing that interview was bizarre. And of course, he was very emotional, but John Schneider also like mocked that interview and like turned on like fake tears in a second. And it's like, oh yeah, these people are actors. I'm not saying he's not truly emotionally distressed for causing someone to die. But he was claiming that he didn't like pull the trigger. So wouldn't it be better just to not do the interviews and let the process happen instead of going to I don't know, on TV and just really trying to save your image in that regard? I mean, people understand that accidents happen, but just insisting continuously that you didn't pull the trigger, like the gun just magically went off, like there shouldn't have been, I guess, the bullet in the chamber, and there's mishandling of stuff going on. But you still should have, like, they have these actors with firearms do a lot of training. There so there's like negligence at a bunch of different places, but to just maintain the I didn't pull the trigger thing, I think that's what was really annoying people, and made folks like John Snyder feel compelled to continuously talk about it. So Daily Wire posted this about 40 minutes ago. Alec Baldwin was indicted Friday by a grand jury on a charge of involuntary manslaughter in connection with a 2021 shooting on the set of the film Rust. Oh, gosh, that was so long ago now. The left cinematographer Helena Hutchins dead, and injured director Joel Souza. Two special prosecutors, Carrie Morrissey and Jason Lewis, released a report on Friday, which said that the only way the shooting occurred was by a pull or rearward depression of the trigger, something Baldwin previously had been adamant he hadn't done, Variety reported. The fatal incident was the consequence of the hammer being manually retracted to its fully rearward and cocked position. At some point, the pull depression of the trigger report concluded, although Alec Baldwin repeatedly denies pulling the trigger given the test findings and observations reported here, the trigger had to be pulled or depressed to release the fully cocked and retracted hammer to the evidence of the revolver. So they're like, no, the evidence points to that you had to have done it, which, like John Schneider, he had a gun. He did the example with like the firearm. It is what it is. Two sources previously told NBC News that the New Mexico prosecutors intended to recharge the 65-year-old actor after previously dropping the criminal charges against him, citing new facts. So, yeah, I thought they had dropped the case and stuff, and I'm like, oh, I guess, well, they're just not going to pursue, and which didn't make sense. The facts seem to be there. Now, I don't have any like animosity toward Alec Baldwin that I want to see him behind bars or something. I just I don't understand how he handled this at all, though. I don't understand how he handled this at all. And we went through at the time when this was like fresh news, when they started like releasing surveillance photos of like him. He went to the police station and he just was, talking to them all, and it didn't seem like they were going to charge him, or he didn't have any sort of fear that was like he was going to be in trouble for it. And of course he was like, upset that all that had happened, but he wasn't anticipating some kind of trouble in the future. But that interview he had, so bizarre. that sit down interview. And John Schneider was just going in on him. I have to go back and maybe look at his socials to see if he said anything about this. But we'll see what happens. Again, I don't have any animosity toward Alec Baldwin. I'm not like wringing my hands like I can't wait till he goes to jail. I know he's not people on the right's their favorite kind of person, because he is such a lefty. But I'll never forget like listening to the radio when he got into it with Sean Hannity. He's like, "You're a construction worker." And I'm like, what is that supposed to mean? Why is that a bad thing? Yeah. So that was an interesting feud, but we'll keep you up to date. I just thought it was interesting because I knew they had dropped the case and we had covered it before. So yeah, we'll see. Anyway, a side note, it has nothing to do with this story, but I mentioned John Schneider. What came in second on the TV series The Masked Singer recently, their last season. And spoiler to any of you who are behind and want to catch up on the show, but it was very interesting, and I am a little surprised that it did take me so long to guess that, because I watched Smallville from beginning to end. I don't know. I think they maybe only had like one clue that was related to that, and he kind of sounded like Tom Jones, but not quite enough like Tom Jones. And the judges made that guess before I made that guess, and then it was like, oh man, that totally is him. But congrats to him though for that. It's cool when you see someone and you know someone and you really like someone who gets very far. But most of his clue packages were about losing his wife, and so it was a very emotional time for him. Anyway, let's talk about this this God Made Trump video again. So I showed this to you guys, I think on maybe Monday, Tuesday. And I might show you guys a little bit of it again to refresh your memory. But there's this video called God Made Trump that's made the rounds. I found out that Paula White shared it. Paula White shared it. Trump, of course, shared it. Trump did not make it. But he shared it. Not only did he share it, they were playing it in Iowa to different folks at rallies. There were different news reports about it, about people saying, different evangelicals saying that they felt uncomfortable with it, thought it was a bit idolatrous and so on. Some people thought it was so cringe. My sister in the comments, she saw it on some kind of survey, and so she just thought it was like, I don't know, something made up or fake or something. Because they're like, the survey is asking like, how do you feel about it? And so when she found out that like Trump shared it around and stuff, she was pretty amazed by it. And so when we watched it, I noticed that it said who made it at the end. Like I said, Dilly. And the name sounded familiar to me. And I've seen him around. And I've seen his stuff around because well, they do memes, him and the followers or friends or whoever. They make stuff that does go viral. But I've seen some pretty negative things that he's posted before. So this person who made the God Made Trump video about how God, America needed a shepherd to help lead its people and all sorts of different stuff. So God made Trump someone who would drill oil and protect the people and go into the ven of not diapers, vipers and wolves and stand up to them and call out the fake news and all that stuff. So it does have this God ordained him sort of vibe, and which a lot of people have said, and like this was the person God appointed at this time, especially people are saying that 2016 and so on. So and have continued with that, but the video goes a bit far. The den of diapers. Well, there are a lot of old people in the race. And so, den of diapers. Maybe that was just a Freudian slip or something. With a den of diapers. Um, but the video goes a bit far, a bit cringe and stuff with the whole shepherd thing and so on. So anyway, the guy who made it, he tweeted out things like this, right? A lot of the C word in there. There's been a lot of hoopla about people calling Casey DeSantis a C. And I understand it's an offensive statement, but it's important to remember that Team DeSantis is full of C's. Whether you're talking fat C Jeba Alice, plastic-faced C Christina Pushaw, or aging lesbian C Bill Mitchell. Now, Jeba, he's about Jenna Ellis, who was a Trump lawyer, but ended up, being pro DeSantis, and she did end up flipping on him during the RICO case in Georgia. Christina works for Ron. Bill Mitchell is not a lesbian; he's a dude. From my understanding, he was like super, super pro Trump. Bill Mitchell was like one of the few people in 2016 who was just like, Trump's gonna win. He was able to prophesy it out of like a bowl of Cheerios or something like that, or SpaghettiOs. I mean, however he was looking at the polling and was just so sure, and he ended up being right. He was not right in 2020, but I don't know exactly what his flip was that led to him being like so anti-Trump, but he used to be so firmly in the Trump train, and I'm sure there's probably a post explaining the transition, but he's pro DeSantis still, even after Iowa, and very anti-Trump. And sometimes Bill writes good posts. Some are more on the unhinged side, but he's a man, not a lesbian, so that's a dig as well. So this is the person who made the God Made Trump video. This is the person. This is the kind of language that they use, and adamant about using it, unrepentant. In an article about the video, they said that Dilley, I guess, considers himself to be a man of faith, but he doesn't read the Bible. He doesn't go to church, and he thinks that Trump has God tier energy or something along those lines. So I would not say a Christian by any stretch of the imagination, but a lot of people claim to be. But Dylan Mulvaney says he's a woman too, so there's that. But after Trump won Iowa, this is what he wrote, just to recap Iowa for the never Trump / leftists who pretend to understand the electorate but clearly don't. I used the word, 25 times last year in my posts. God Made Trump was played at every rally to close out the state. Evangelicals were unfazed. Trump won by 30. Now, this post you made today, and it bothered me so much because he's, again, really unrepentant about his language and so on. And he made the particular video, and he's like, and evangelicals didn't care. They were unfazed. So, and I don't know, just unfazed because maybe they didn't think the video was as creepy or cringy or idolatrous as other folks have thought. But also, I think his sort of brand and style and language, and they don't care, and they're still gonna vote in uniform a particular way. And to me, it comes off as he's acknowledging that the salt has lost its savor. In other words, if you're unfamiliar with scripture, that the evangelicals, they've kind of lost their effectiveness, their relevance, that they're in a motion where they're just going to vote a particular way. Because I do think that I think things like this should bother people. I do. And it's not Trump doing it, but though Trump and people associated with his team have made comments that are similar to that. I think those things should matter. Like, if it's a binary choice between like Biden and Trump, like, don't get me wrong, I don't want Biden to be president again. But there's like no demand that we want these people to be better, like morally. And I find that troubling. Just kind of like, it is what it is. Oh, it's the mean tweets, etc. Like, were you kind of hoping in 2016 when you voted for Trump that like when he came out on stage and just seemed kind of shocked, but humbled, that maybe a little bit of that humbleness would stick, and maybe, they get better about the tweeting and other things like that. I was kind of hoping that. Now, again, like, binary choice, him and Biden or him and Hillary, at the end of the day, you want the person in charge to enact good policy that's going to do the most good for the country. But I guess right now it's kind of not a binary choice. So could we at least make a little bit of a demand that we shape up a bit, and we don't just have this expectation that evangelicals will be unfazed? That's a really bad vibe. That's a really bad problem if that's the automatic lesson that people can take out of stuff, that they're just going to be unfazed no matter what happens. They're just going to be on board no matter what happens. And there are more serious things going on than Dilly using that language online. I think throwing like the pro-life movement under the bus is kind of far more serious, but there's nothing wrong with wanting some more accountability from the people who are your leaders, even if it's going to be like in the bag. So this mentality of like they're unfazed, that disturbs me, man. I'm going to play a little bit of maybe I'll play the whole thing. They're not too long, but if you don't know what I'm talking about, if you haven't seen the video, let me go ahead and play the God made Trump, and I will also contrast it with the video that the Lincoln Project did. Is the that just totally demolishes this one, in my opinion. But here's the God made Trump video.
And on June 14th, 1946, God looked down on his planned paradise and said, I need a caretaker. So God gave us Trump. God said, I need somebody willing to get up before dawn, fix this country, work all day, fight the Marxists, eat supper, then go to the Oval Office and stay past midnight at a meeting of the heads of state. So God made Trump. I need somebody with arms, strong enough to rustle the deep state, and yet gentle enough to deliver his own grandchild. Somebody to ruffle the feathers, tame cantankerous World Economic Forum, come home hungry, have to wait until the First Lady is done with lunch with friends, then tell the ladies to be sure and come back real soon, and mean it. So God gave us Trump. I need somebody who can shape an axe, but wield a sword, who had the courage to step foot in North Korea, who can make money from the tar of the sand, turn liquid to gold, who, understands the difference between tariffs and inflation, will finish his 40-hour week by Tuesday noon, but then put in another 72 hours. So God made Trump. God had to have somebody willing to go into the den of vipers, call out the fake news for their tongues as sharp as a serpent's. The poison of vipers is on their lips, and yet stop. So God made Trump. God said, I need somebody who will be strong and courageous, who will not be afraid or terrified of the wolves when they attack, a man who cares for the flock, a shepherd to mankind who won't ever leave nor forsake them. I need the most diligent worker to follow the path and remain strong in faith and know the belief of God and country, somebody who's willing to drill, bring back manufacturing and American jobs, farm the lands, secure our borders, build our military, fight the system all day, and finish a hard week's work by attending church on Sunday. And then his oldest son turns and says, Dad, let's make America great again. Dad, let's build back a country to be the envy of the world again. So God made Trump.
Yeah, so that dilly there at the end, you see his logo. So now the shepherd for mankind, that's a lot, guys. That's a lot. There's definitely some fan fiction in that video. The wield an axe, make it shape an axe, wield a sword. I don't that's I'm not sure what that's supposed to mean. He because he himself it can press a button, I guess. He can tell people to do stuff. But he hasn't he deferred, he didn't serve. But the never leave you, never forsake you, like taking lines of what we expect our savior to be, and it's just not the case. I know a lot of people feel that way in regard to Trump. There's a lot of people who have been forsaken, though. I won't get to the long story again, but I'll just mention briefly, like his electors aren't getting any, who are being prosecuted. They're not getting any help from Trump, for example. Some of these people who are being prosecuted in relation to like the RICO case and other stuff, you know, there's plenty of people who aren't getting help from Trump and who went along with stuff and they knew that certain things wouldn't work out, but they pressed for it anyway. So some that a lot of things, drill baby drill, all that ton of stuff in there. Sure. Some of it's fan fiction, though. Some of it's fan fiction. And I mentioned the other day, and if you haven't seen that, because it seems like some people in here haven't seen that video, the Lincoln Project made a contrast video. The Lincoln Project, I've never seen like anything I think I've liked that they've produced. Of course, I wouldn't like it. I don't like the content that they make. It's not geared toward me. But I do cut political videos. And from a professional standpoint, I just think a lot of their stuff is so ridiculous. and you just have to have like extreme TDS, Trump derangement syndrome, to appreciate anything from their page. And many people have TDS because they obviously give them a lot of money. The Lincoln Project is supposed to be a group of Republicans who are just, I don't know, so above board that they can't stand Trump that they had to band together to stop him. But the thing about them is that once you start pandering to that crowd who hates Trump and they pay your bills, people are in a pattern where they have to keep just being against Republicans because the same people who hate Trump certainly don't like people like DeSantis or Ted Cruz or Rand Paul, et cetera, et cetera. So instead of just being we want to hold Republicans to a standard that is like, I don't know, back to like Republicans that we used to look up to, they're just anti-Republican now. And so that's the case with them. That's the case with like Bill Kristol is basically him and the Bulwark and stuff. They do anti like Republican stuff all the time. When Peter Meyer lost to John Gibbs in the primary in Michigan, Peter Meyer, his family owns Meyer's grocery stores. And he was one of the people who voted to impeach Trump. And so Trump ended up picking John Gibbs, who is from Michigan, but I don't think he really like lived in Michigan or doesn't have a lot of roots or whatever. But they picked him to run against Peter Meyer. Peter Meyer, of course, had name ID, money and stuff, but people are mad at him, right? So the Democrats concocted a plan that they would pour money into Gibbs's race, so Gibbs would win in the primary. And so they wanted the MAGA person to go through the primary. And then after they won in the primary, they figured in that district, it's I don't know what district it is now, but it was a 3rd district. But Justin Amash, that used to be his district. And then Peter Meyer replaced him. And they figured that the Democrat would have a better chance against Trump's picked candidate than Peter Meyer, who could appeal to, who could pull his base, not all of his base probably, but moderates and stuff too. So they would make ads that were supposed to be attack ads against John Gibbs, but it'd be like, John Gibbs wants parents to be part of their children's education, and it would be like stuff like that. They like say something that was like good but kind of ominous, that if you're a Republican you'd be like, it sounds pretty good, that's not a bad thing. But he didn't have the kind of money that Myers had, so they helped to raise Gibbs' name ID and all that stuff. So anyway, Gibbs ended up winning over Peter Meyer. And after Peter Meyer lost, Peter Meyer would complain, and he's like, you guys say that you want like a good Republican, but the truth is that you don't really want them to be in office. You go ahead and you fund these other folks. Duh. They don't want people with R's in their names to take the spot when they could have someone with a D next to their name to take that spot. Like, you're all the enemy. Like, they will name you all crazy MAGA people if they can. And so anyway, Bill Kristol is like the Bulwark, his company or whatever. They wrote an article complaining about Peter Meyer, because they're like, the problem isn't just you, it's the fact that your constituents still support people like them. So even if you're this particular way, what's really the problem is these Republicans who are the voters. So they have a disdain toward just Republicans, and period. So these people from like Lincoln Project and so on, who've made a living now, their livelihood is tied into just Republican hating. It's not just Trump, because you can't say nice things about other Republicans who believe the same thing, because you're going to tick off the people who give you a bunch of money, right? So anyway, I've never thought that the Lincoln Project has like produced basically anything good from anything that I've seen, just like lies and other stuff that's so obscene. Now, they did a contrast to this God Made Trump video, and it too is a fan fiction. The idea of Trump, it's like, so they've contrasted that God made Trump to God made a dictator. And Trump, he did say that line about being a dictator, saying that he would be a dictator for a day, as in he would just, it's kind of a tongue-in-cheek joking sort of thing about, but the context is just that he was going to go on and undo a lot of the executive order stuff that Biden did, and just put things back on track for the first day he gets in office. He's not going to, like, I don't know, shoot dissidents in the face and other sort of things, put up concentration camps and all sorts of other things that are comparable to the dictators that they have in the video. So it is fan fiction. as far as their ideas of Trump. But when they get to the portion about the evangelicals, that's where it's like, ooh, because there are definitely some evangelicals that are just so in the tank with the hero worship that it's weird. That it's really freaking weird. So I know I already played this. If you guys already watched this with me earlier in the week, I apologize, but I want people to know what I'm talking about. So I'm gonna go ahead and play this again. Again, it's not that long, but objectively speaking, because again, I do cut videos. This was I was surprised that they made it.
And on the 8th day, God looked down on his planned paradise and said, I need a man to test the will and goodness of a free people. So God made a dictator. God said, I need a man who failed in everything but theft and broken promises to live in a golden palace and convince the poor he serves their needs. So God made a dictator. God said, I need a wicked man to lead the common folk with hatred and fear. So God made a dictator. God said, I need a corrupt man who is above the law and immune from justice. So God made a dictator. God said, I need a man who will use violence to seize power. So God made a dictator. God said, I need a man whose followers will call black white, call evil good, and call criminals hostages. So God made a dictator. God said, I need his political party to obey without question, and the press fear his wrath. So God made a dictator. God said, I need a cruel man who uses his power and position to punish and harm his opposition. So God made a dictator. God said, I need a man who breaks the faith of even his most godly followers and leads them to idolatry. Place him above me. So God made a dictator. And then God said, I sent this man to test you, and until you cast him down, you have failed. So God made a dictator.
Yeah, I was utterly shocked when I saw that the Lincoln Project made that. I was like, they made something that was good, and not good as in like totally truthful, not good as in like I'm persuaded, but good as in I can see that persuading not just super crazy people. So now of course there are things in there that's silly. The idea, like, Trump was far easier for the deep state or Democrats or whoever to manage than they let on. Did he not make bipartisan legislation that made Van Jones cry on TV? Like, did he not sign things and make deals with Nancy Pelosi and all these folks? He did. He did. The idea of Trump being a dictator is crazy. By the way, obviously it's AI. So I see people talking about the narrator. They program the AI to sound like Harvey. I'm trying to think of his name. I know someone mentioned it in the comments, but it was a broadcaster back in the day. But I'm trying to find this comment. I know someone mentioned it. Paul Harvey. Yeah, he's they did the AI to that. So they're both pretty good as in quality videos. But Dilly's portion with the evangelicals and the contrast with the Lincoln Project's showing of the evangelicals, it just gave me like internal cringe, because I just know there's so many people who take it so far, and it is like holding a man up to like too high. Like I talked about how there'd be people like flying the Trump flags way beyond like election time, way beyond like when it was being contested, way just still out there waving the flags. I'm just like, if only people loved evangelize the gospel like this. waving signs that said Jesus saves and all this stuff. Out there in the rain, cold, etc. People are just dedicated. I've it's just an effective video. It's just an effective video. Even like beyond the evangelical stuff, like showing like Fox talking about the media, people afraid to like criticize and so on. Part that's like true to a degree. um I know so many like organizations and people and stuff who aren't too fond of Trump, but they know that so much money is tied into Trump that they won't say anything bad about him because they want to fundraise off of him. They want to make merchandise and sell stuff off of him. They want to they don't want their followers to get upset with them and just leave them and so on. I had a conversation with someone about like me criticizing Trump, and they're like, "What about your followers?" I'm like, "Well, I told them. I said I think if you watch people who watch me enough know that well, I've been definitely frustrated with Trump, but I say if someone does something bad, I'm going to say it, talk about it. If someone does something good, I'm going to talk about it, whether I like you or I don't. I've talked about Trump. I've talked about Haley. I've talked about DeSantis. I've talked about Vivek. I've stood up for all these people at different points of time. But I do know that, some people are more thin-skinned about the person that they like. And if I say something and I lose that person, that's just something I'm willing to risk. Because at the end of the day, I'm sharing my thoughts, my feelings, my perspective on stuff. And I cannot live my life trying to placate to my audience. And hopefully I'll have respect for that. And I know I'll lose people, but it just kind of is what it is. I can't live my life trying to just say what other people want me to say, because that's the opposite of what I advocate for. Like if we talk about gender stuff and so on, like I want people to speak the truth. I don't want people to be too afraid to voice their true opinions because of how they'll be cast down. Now, maybe people's opinions are wrong about stuff. I could be wrong about stuff, and if I find out the truth, I want to correct it. But I encourage you guys to tell the truth. So I want to tell the truth to you. I want to be honest about how I feel. So, but there's a lot of people who too much is riding on particular candidates or so on. Trump makes people so much money, including people who hate him, and people who hate him and are pretending not to hate him. I'm sorry if you can hear that dog next door. There is a bit of a fear from folks. I went to one Trump rally. I think the last Trump rally I went to, people were there like, "I'm here to be seen." not to support the president. They those like during midterms, I guess. And they're just like, "I'm here to be seen." And most people knew that we shouldn't be having a rally. People should be making phone calls and knocking doors. They eat up a lot of time. People are there all day. And then they're there. They line up early. They come in. They wait for it to start. And then the pre-program starts. And then Trump doesn't arrive until like more than an hour later. And then he's up for like, I don't know, 2 hours talking. It's just a whole day gone, especially like in the height of like election time. Like rallies can be good for some stuff, but especially if you can energize people to participate. But most people are like, we should not be having a rally right now. But people go there, they want to be seen. They want to be seen. So there's some truth to that video. Much of it is fan fiction, but guys, again, it is effective. So anyway, back to the Dilly thing. I don't like this idea of just blatantly like the evangelicals are unfazed. And I suppose it's true. And they voted for lockstep with Trump because they like him for various reasons, especially like, he most people will point to the overturning of Roe v. Wade, you know, and that's nothing to take lightly, and other sort of, accomplishments he had, and how well the economy was under him, and so on. Um but but people do need to kind of take into account what he's talking about doing in the future, because the stuff he proposed in 2016 isn't the same that he's proposing moving forward. Um, so just take that into account, and then vote as you wish. Um, Someone said they want Christ to return. Sometimes I feel like I've kind of had enough here, but I don't know. I say this many times. I'm glad that I am saved, and or else a lot of this stuff with this politics will probably get me down more. But I know at the root of much stuff is that um people suppress the truth, and their heart seeks to do wickedness and other stuff. And I know that there is no man that we can vote in that's going to just change all of our lives and save us. There'll be no politician who can do such a thing. And it's going to take such a long time to undo so much damage that's been done in academia and entertainment, that's rooted so much evil into our culture. The best kind of bet that I feel that we have is the gospel. And so that's what I do. I mean, beyond like the commentary stuff, religion is very important to me and my family, and we're all in like a ministry and stuff. I've traveled as a child, going around the country, and been overseas and stuff, just spreading the gospel and stuff with my family. So that's what's really, really important to me. There's other things that are important to me, like I like to write, and I'm here commentating with you guys and so on. And um I like art and a bunch of other stuff as well, but the ministry is what's really important to me. So at the end of the day, I know that's where real change happens. So that's where I put I put my faith in God, and pray for people to have their hearts and minds changed there. Because, and you can work on the political scenes and politics are trying to negotiate to get things done based on where people are, right? But politics can't change their people's hearts. If you want some kind of huge kind of cultural structural thing, you have to move in other sorts of way. You can do that by impacting the culture, and I guess education, and indoctrinating people or whatever, educating folks. But that takes a while, and we've really lost the battle there. Now there's people trying to make a change, like Daily Wire is making content, and other folks are making content, and that's good. But all those things will take time. There's people who are trying to overhaul with education and invest more on like school choice and homeschooling and other things like that, and killing DEI and other stuff like that. That's a hard battle. That's worth fighting, but it's still going to take a while. But to really change the culture to where it needs to go, to really impact lives with any sort of true meaningful output, I think is centered in the gospel. And I think even people who aren't religious are beginning to wake up and realize, and have different commentary, like, man, if the Christians just kind of tap out in America, we're kind of done. Zuby, the artist, like mentioned something like that in a post some time ago. There's some former atheist or new atheist or whatever who are just kind of like, you know what, atheism wasn't all that is cracked up to be, even if they don't have the belief, or maybe they're kind of starting to see, they're seeing the value in the belief system, and how our society is continuing to erode to the insanity without this structure there. So evangelicals cannot just be expected to be unfazed. That's not a good sign. That's not a good sign. We should be driving the change, not tucking our tails and running away. And I'm not talking about Christian nationalism or something like that, but we should be having such an impact that things kind of change, have a natural progression toward goodness. Toward good policy. Like this, the discussions about like abortion, like, oh, we just need to leave that behind, etc., blah blah blah. The reason why abortion is so prevalent is because there's a demand for it, but there's a demand for it because our culture is just kind of built that way. And but there's a complete dehumanization of the unborn, of the preborn. But there's also a selfish part of our society that is like, I'm going to put me first, and it's okay to sacrifice someone else for my future. That's really like the root of it. Like in my book, of course, God is blatantly against abortion. I mean, I have a photo I can show you. This is my proof. That's why this is the closest one I had. The ugly gray line is not there on the actual book. This is this is the proof version. I argue in it that I talk about science and rights and politics and all that stuff too. And and I talk about, like, I don't know, basic sort of scriptures that are go-to for like different pro-life people, like, you know, I formed you in your mother's, I knew you before I formed you in your mother's womb, etc., stuff like that. But I make the case that if you are a believer, there's no way that should be a part of you to go that route, because it is against justice. It's against being self-sacrificing and caring and compassionate and all sorts of different things that we're taught to be as Christians. So like one part of the book, I mentioned a story about how one girl on TikTok, she mentioned that she got an abortion, and so she's like, I'm going to tell you guys what it's really like, because you pro-lifers don't really know what it's like and don't know how awful it is or something. And we're just kind of like, we know, that's why we try to warn you guys. But she took the abortion pill, and she's like, I'm sick of people saying stuff like, you guys get it for birth control. It's not birth control. And then when she talked about in another video, the reason why she got an abortion was totally birth control. And the reason was, I don't know, when people hear birth control, maybe do they think like, oh, I had a one night stand, and he wasn't wearing protection, and I wasn't on birth control. We made an oopsie baby when we were having unprotected sex, so now I'm going to have an abortion. Like, that's not what we mean. Like, people take birth control for all kinds of reasons. But if you want to have sex but not get pregnant, you take birth control, right? So if abortion is your backup birth control, like you want to have sex and then the baby's here, and maybe your reason is because you can't afford it, maybe it's because you don't really like the person you're with that much, or whatever, you're using as birth control. Like if there's some kind of a, I don't know, medical situation, that's not the same, you know. You're using it basically as backup birth control. So she said that when she does have a child, she wants to be able to offer them the world, and she wasn't able to do that right now. She doesn't feel financially stable enough to do that. And I'm like, how can you offer your child the world, but you're not even willing to offer them life? And a lot of people, their reason will be finances. That's what they'll say. That's what they'll claim. But there'll be people who will say that who are not in like financial dire straits or whatever. But that's what they'll say. Like, people want to be comfortable when they have a kid. I understand. that doesn't happen for most people, I think, and they find a way to survive somehow, right? Um, but I think the truth is, because they'll say like, oh, we're trying to spare our kid that life of struggling. There were times when we were okay off, not never like seriously well off or whatever. But there are times when we struggled, really, 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 really financially struggled. And you can't just guess how someone's life is going to be, even based off of your current circumstances. Life is not linear. You have ups and you have downs, and you never know if you're going to get the job of your dreams in a year or so, hit the lotto tomorrow, or whatever. Someone gives you the break of a lifetime that could alter your life in a positive trajectory. You just don't know, so it's not worth ending someone else's life. So you shouldn't do it for that reason. But I think that's kind of an excuse most of the time. I think the truth is that people want to spare themselves the burden of being a parent who's struggling, as opposed to they're having an abortion to spare their child from being a child who struggles. Because life is linear. They can, things can change all for the better. Miley Cyrus's life growing up was far different than her dad's. Right? They still have like relatives, I guess, that are like broke Appalachia, but her life was far different than her dad's growing up. Things rapidly can improve for folks, especially in a country like the United States of America. But to be a parent and to go through the struggles and have to face the pressure of not being able to provide, or feeling like you can't provide enough, or trying to figure things out, that's rough. I know it's rough because I watched the pressure on my parents, particularly my dad, because my mom doesn't seem to let things get to her like that. My mom was just I don't know, indestructible, but it really would be heavy on my dad at times. So I think the truth is that we're trying to save ourselves from that particular pressure. But struggling, it sucks in the moment. But adversity does make us stronger, can make us stronger, should make us stronger. Suffering does make us stronger. As Apostle Paul talked about, like, he found out that, God, with all things, God is with Christ, all things are possible. With God, all things are possible. But how do you find that out? Through his weakness. God showed him that he could persevere through it all. You think you just kind of wake up with that revelation? It becomes more real to you as you're going through life, and you're like, I can see how God got me through that. I can see how he helped me survive through that. So people just kind of throwing in the towel preemptively and being like, let's chuck that kid out my uterus and try it again some other time. You didn't erase a baby. You sacrificed one child for a more comfortable future. And that's something that should be shameful, not applauded in a shout your abortion sort of fashion. The boss girl getting that bag, like, but we're so kind of far removed from the right thing. So now we're at a point where, like, people are looking at election victories and they're like, well, we have to compromise or we'll lose everything. I'm concerned about the people saying that. And let's be blunt. It's Trump saying that now. That's what he's defending. Like, you could say it's a states' rights issue, but he's saying the states passing 6-week heartbeat bills with all kinds of different exceptions in it are bad. The DeSantis 6-week bill that has so many exceptions in it of course, life of the mother as like serious injury, fatal abnormality, rape, incest. The only thing you cannot do is basically have elective abortions past 6 weeks, which would basically be like your birth control reasons, guys. And some reasons you can feel are more dire than others. Everyone's situation is different. But you don't need to kill that child. You don't need to kill them. But he'll still let you do it for 6 weeks. And Trump is like, no, people don't like it because a woman might not even know she's pregnant then. Oh, so let's just give her more time to kill the baby. But that's where Trump feels that he has to be, because he's looking at electoral stuff and is willing to make a compromise. And instead of just leaving it alone, he's like, we're going to make a deal and then that's going to be the end of it. That's not how people work. That's not how people work. And that's not how this issue should work. So you can feel that people have to pass and take what kind of wins with the policies that they can at the moment. But you can't expect people who are looking at the ethics of the situation and are looking at human rights violations and expect to be like, you're right. We need to just kind of make a deal and end things. Unless the deal is abolition, we can't just go along with that. So I am concerned where he wants to lead the party in that direction. I am concerned about it. But in the meantime, folks like him, they're going to do what they have to do to get elected. But we have to make the case for the change and speak to hearts and minds, and hopefully it'll bubble out in the culture. But I think we've had too many feckless Christians, too many people willing to make compromises on not just this issue, but other ones. And then you just keep seeing that conservatives' influence just shrink and shrink and shrink and shrink. And I don't know what sort of purpose they think conservatism serves, and what is it conserving anymore? Because fiscal responsibility has been like thrown out the window for a minute. It's gone. And Trump's not promising to make it any better either. So, and he definitely didn't make it better. So like, what's it all for? These are serious questions we got to have with ourselves, guys. But, there's nothing wrong with wanting to push people, even people you like, into a better direction. So again, this like statement about evangelicals being unfazed, I don't want people who are supposed to be on our side to ever utter such things when we're talking about immoral stuff going on. Which, by the way, it does seem like the Trump campaign is trying not to acknowledge Dilly because they know he's controversial, I assume, because he was complaining about it on one of his videos. And I don't know if there's cursing and stuff in here. But it's, I guess I'll just play this snippet from Rumble. He was talking about how they talked about his video, but they didn't acknowledge that it was him. And Don Jr. follows him, so they must have really known that it was him. But maybe they just didn't want to say it because, I don't know, he calls Casey DeSantis, he uses obscene language toward her and other people.
Now, the version from saying my name is getting downright weird, okay? It's getting downright fucking weird. I don't know why. Maybe I say scary things on the show. Maybe it's like, oh, he's toxic. We can't have our branding associated with him. I really don't understand it. But it somehow, even Don Jr. was like, yeah, this is an amazing video. I don't know who made it. Bro, we follow each other on Twitter. You followed me on all of my social media off and on for 5 years. You know who made it. I don't know why you said you didn't. Clearly, it's like, hey, don't say Dilly meme team. Don't say Dilly. Just don't fucking say that out loud. We don't want anybody Googling him. We don't want anybody looking. I don't know. I don't know. But it's seriously confusing the shit out of me.
Now, I don't know why it's confusing because I guess the silver lining is if they don't want to be associated with him, at least there's some common sense there. But bro, clean up your act. Clean up your act. You should not want to say stuff, the kind of stuff that you're saying toward Casey DeSantis. For what? For what? So yeah, they probably know that he made it, and there's articles and stuff about it. But I just wanted to bring him to your guys' attention about the guy who made that God made Trump video. As him. Is him. So on a side note, though, it probably is annoying people pretending like they don't know who made the video when his name is like at the end of it. Now some people might cut it off or whatever, but if they know and they're not acknowledging it and pretending like they don't know, that would be annoying. So I'll give it to him on that. But yeah, we didn't even get to the border stuff, but we'll talk about that on Monday. I apologize, but yeah, well, they caught someone on Eagle Pass from Azerbaijan. There's people from all over the world coming in through our border. It's insane. It's insane how easy it is to come up through the southern border. And that was a section they got caught by, I guess, this people from the state of Texas, where the federal government wasn't like doing enough of their job. So hopefully they catch more of these people. And there is like a slowdown that's been going on beginning of the year. And from reporting, it seems like Biden might have some kind of deal with the Mexican president because it's an election year, which is crazy because people would obviously feel better about Biden if he would just be better on the border. His super crazy people on his side, like those young progressives who are really loud, who might say walls are racist, they're mad at him anyway over like the Gaza stuff, and are promising not to vote for him anyway. You can at least like try to fix up the border to appeal to some soft Dems and moderates. So who is driving that bus? Who is driving that bus? Who is going into the den of diapers? And I guess controlling how it works from there. If you haven't been following the whole time with this, the time with the den of diapers, you'll just have to go back and listen to that again. But anyway, thank you guys for joining me today. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. Go to blacktnews.com, check out different content on the website, articles, videos, etc. If you like what I do here, please consider leaving a donation on the site. You guys, well, if you're watching this later, you guys can send still SARS on Facebook and super thanks. Again, thank you to super chats. I do appreciate it. Check out some of my content outside of my political stuff. I do have books that you guys can check out already, like showed a few, but I mean, one of my books, again, this is like the proof version. There is an actual like normal version. Of course, God is blatantly against abortion. By the way, I started off my show talking about my youngest sister, Tina, and some of her little tiny art. She's actually the one who drew this hand of God reaching out to this baby hand. And so it was my idea. But I'm like, hey, can you draw this? And she did a beautiful job. She drew it and then like then put it in the computer and start doing like oils, kind of do like oil kind of painting effect and stuff to it. And then from there, I guess I did the rest. But I usually do all my book covers, but I knew it would take me entirely too long to draw. So I'm so appreciative of my younger sister. Her website is tinastextportraits.com, and she draws a ton. She paints a ton of like little teeny tiny paintings. She has regular size paintings. She had a showcase sometime last year. So if anyone wants to check out some of her bigger portraits, she has text portraits. Like she'll draw a picture of you, but she'll do it like with like text. Like she'll write it out. Like she did like wedding vows. There was one preacher, there was some kind of prayer he did. She drew him out of that. She has a Jesus with the John 3:16 that she has on her site. She has Trump. It just says Trump, and she has a Trump, an Obama, a Reagan, a Lincoln. So yeah, go ahead and check out her site. But she does really beautiful work. She's working on a picture book for me right now. I'll let you know when it's out. I'll let you know when it's out. Thank you guys, and I hope you guys have a great weekend. I'll be going to church in a little bit myself, but be safe out there. I don't know what the weather's gonna be like this weekend, but be safe. God bless you, and I'll see you Monday.